Hi, I'm Mitch Gallagher. Welcome to the Sweetwater Minute. Today on the Sweetwater Minute, we are joined by Troy Hartman, one of the sales managers here at Sweetwater. Thanks for coming in. Appreciate it.
Glad to be here.
So, Troy, you've actually been with Sweetwater for quite a while, and you held a number of positions before you were the sales manager, or one of the sales managers.
Yes.
Can you give us kind of a rundown of how you ended up here, how long you've been here, and what you've done for the company?
Oh, yeah, that's interesting. I've been here 17 years now,
Wow.
and my background is electronic engineering and computer networking. And so when I first came in, I had a myriad of roles to play, and that included from being the IT guy to doing turnkey systems with hardware and software, recording setups, to helping repair ADATs, if you remember those.
Sure.
And keyboards, and also did IBM tech support calls, keyboard tech support calls. I even helped with your original Sweetwater University and taught PC classes to help all of you Mac guys understand the PC customer and how to configure those setups.
Right, right. And you moved into other positions as well.
I did. One thing led to another, and I went into service management. I was Sweetwater's first director of purchasing, and then actually for about the last 11 years, I've been a sales manager.
So what does a sales manager do here at Sweetwater?
Well, there's really a two-pronged approach of what covers most of my day, and actually the other sales managers as well. But first and foremost, it's customer-centric. It's doing whatever we can to facilitate helping the sales engineers get customer issues taken care of, whether that's researching product information, whether that's taking care of internal procedures to help an invoice get through the system and get out to the customer. So that's the most of the day. The second part of it is training. So it's sales training for newer sales engineers that are going through that Sweetwater University. And it's also mentoring, coaching, and helping with situations with each sales engineer throughout the day.
Right. Now, there are 3 sales managers here at Sweetwater.
Yes.
Do you all do basically the same thing, or do you each have different roles, or how do you split that up?
We all do about the same thing, but we do have different focus points on what we do. I'm a keyboard player. I also play bass. So, I get some of those questions. I'm a PC kind of guy, although I do also have Macs. One of the 2 other sales managers are named Dave, so we call them the Daves. Okay?
Sure, of course.
Right? David Stewart is by far the most technical of all 3 of us. And he's a pretty fair bass player, too. David Klausner is a guitar player, and he used to be a sales engineer as well, so he knows the ropes and the process that the sales engineers go through.
Right, right. Now, when you started at Sweetwater 17 years ago, there were how many people working here?
Less than 30.
Less than 30, and how many are there today?
Over 400.
Right, pretty amazing difference.
It is incredible.
In not that long of a time.
Yeah.
So what kind of changes have you seen in the way that the company operates in those 17 years?
You know, what's fascinating is I've never worked with so many smart people that know how to develop systems and procedures to do what's best for our customers. I mean, right now, if you are an existing customer and if you put an order in, your order is being packed less than a minute later.
Wow.
I mean, once the sales engineer presses that button to say, activate this order, it's being packed.
Wow.
And that speed of systems has actually been developed over these last 17 years that I've been here. And the whole goal and the whole focus is get the gear out the door as fast as possible. I mean, you know what it's like when you buy something, you want it yesterday, right?
That's right.
So this whole system is designed just to get it out the door as quickly as possible.
Right, so nobody's kept waiting.
Exactly.
Right, right. Now, we have how many sales engineers on the floor at this point?
About 145.
About 145. Can you give us some insight into what a day in the life of a sales engineer might be like?
Sure. Let me take a step back, though. When you've ever called a company and you've had to get information on a product, maybe one of their services, or maybe even had a problem, and you get a hold of somebody, and invariably they can't solve the issue, and you have to call back the next day, well, you're hard-pressed if you're going to get to talk to that same person. So then you got to start all over with somebody brand new, explain your situation again, and do it all over. Well, our sales engineers are very unique in the sense that when our customers get a hold of the sales engineer, that person becomes their direct contact with Sweetwater. So if you call back in tomorrow, they're going to remember your conversation that you had last week. They're going to remember the conversation you had a month ago. They're going to have knowledge of what you already own in your studio, what you're already building, what kind of music you like to record. So therefore, they can take off from where you're going. And you don't have to call just some random phone center bank and talk to 10 different people and explain yourselves 10 different times.
Right.
Now, you can call in any time and talk to anybody you want to, but you always have that direct contact whenever you need some continuity. So saying all that. Sales engineer, when they come in, what they're doing is they're looking at their customers and saying, okay, what open issues do I have? What research do I have to finish and complete? What order status do I need to get updated for this customer? Those types of things. So everything that they're doing is customer oriented.
Mm-hmm. Right, and then of course speaking with customers on the phone.
Of course, yes.
Handling emails, making sure packages are getting, orders are getting sent out.
That's right.
And all those kinds of things as well.
Yeah, I mean, they'll be on the phone, 4, 5, 6 hours a day, just talking with customers, setting up gear, and they may make to the tune of 80 to 130 calls a day.
Wow. That's a lot of time on the phone.
Yeah, it is.
But they're building relationships with the customers, so it's really like they're talking with people they know. It's not like you're just calling in and they're just taking an order from you.
That's right.
So there's more of a relationship building kind of a thing there.
That's right.
Very interesting. Now, we have 145 sales engineers, but actually, given that we've been blessed with such great growth here at Sweetwater, we're pretty much always hiring sales engineers.
We are.
What kinds of things do you look for when somebody applies at Sweetwater, when you're considering somebody for that position?
One of the litmus tests I use is our Pro Gear directory. If you can look through our Pro Gear directory and know what 70 to 80% of the items are that in there, who would buy that, how they would hook it up, and how that integrates into your system, you're on your way to be a candidate for being a sales engineer.
Right.
Okay? So then the second part of what I'm looking for is, can they engage a person and talk about it? We know those guys who are real tweaky and love the gear and love the specs and can almost recite the manual to you word for word, right? But some of those guys can't hold a conversation very long, right? Okay?
Right.
So we're looking for somebody who has a little bit of that balance of both of those.
Right. Now, when they apply here, what's kind of the process that you go through as far as interviews and those kinds of things?
Well, there's minimally at least one phone interview, potentially sometimes 2 phone interviews. We put them through a battery of testing, and most significant test is technical test. We're checking their product knowledge. We're checking mostly on their technical knowledge. Do they understand how compressor works? Do they understand how to where you're going to put a compressor in the signal flow, right? And so it's understanding all of that. Then we also let them shadow as a sales engineer, get a feel for what the job looks like. Get a feel for if this is something that they could see themselves doing. And they'll spend about most of the day here, and they'll have a formal interview. We'll actually buy them lunch. And then there's a committee of people that we look at and consider if that's a viable candidate. So we're concerned when we hire someone that Sweetwater's reputation's on the line. So whether they're talking to somebody making CDs in their basement, all the way up to a professional studio, they need to be able to know what they're talking about, and therefore we need the right candidate to be able to pull that off.
Right, right. And of course, there's all the training and things that go on here after you're hired as a sales engineer, but you have to come in with that basis that you can build from and really have a good grounding to start from.
That's right. If we have somebody that's 70, 80% of the way there, can engage a customer, then we turn them over to Greg Bates, who you had your last Sweetwater Minute, I believe, and Sweetwater University, and we put them through that 13-week training.
Right. Right, great. It's very interesting.
Yeah.
Right. Troy, thanks for coming in today. Appreciate it.
My pleasure.
I'm Mitch Gallagher. Thanks for joining me for the Sweetwater Minute.